Good evening. It's Monday, February 3rd. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Tonight, no more debates or polls. The presidential election cycle begins with the first in the nation Iowa caucuses. In the next few hours, we'll learn which Democrat has the early edge in challenging President Trump. Jeff Zeleny reports.
If the turnout is high, we're going to win. So our job together is to create the highest turnout in the history of the Iowa Caucus. Thank you all very much.
Bernie Sanders and his Democratic rivals making one final lap around Iowa.
Oh, we got the whole group here. You ready?
Rallying the faithful and working feverishly to convert the undecided in their closing arguments to voters.
You let only a certain bunch of us out of the gate. We don't all get through the gate. We don't all get to move beyond where we've been. And you know, it really matters. It really matters what you do.
Joe Biden downplaying his chances of winning, telling supporters on Sunday he believes the race is a toss-up as the voting finally begins tonight in the Democratic nominating contest. On an unseasonably warm winter day, voters lining up to catch one more glimpse of the candidates as they delivered their own distinctive sales pitches on electability.
We've got to make absolutely sure that we win in November. So much depends on it.
Our number one job is to beat Donald Trump. Women win. Let's get this done.
One of your jobs is to look at how we're going to win in the general. That is your job.
But before crowning a nominee for the general election, voters must decide whether to choose a progressive path.
Healthcare is a human right, not a privilege.
Or more of a pragmatic one.
Mayors get things done.
The outcome of the Iowa caucuses will start, but hardly finish that debate. Many voters have been slow to decide and are still open to changing their minds as they keep searching to find the strongest candidate to challenge President Trump.
Beat Trump. Absolutely. I'm tired of him. I'm tired of his lies.
Val Dudley listened to her top choices one last time on Sunday, saying she's still torn.
Amy and Pete.
Is it a gut feeling at the end of the day, or how do you make up your mind?
I think it is kind of a gut feeling.
She believes Sanders is closing strong and said that concerns her.
I'd support Bernie if he was our candidate. However, I think he's a little wild. I think he's a little too out there to get some of the undecided people.
That was Jeff Zeleny reporting. KPBS.org will have updates on tonight's results from Iowa. The next state is New Hampshire, which holds its primary next week. And here in California, mail-in voting is now underway. As KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen tells us, ballots will soon arrive in your mailbox.
There are a few new things about this year's election when it comes to voting by mail. Thanks to a 2018 state law, you don't need to put a stamp on your ballot's return envelope. And San Diego County Registrar of Voters Michael Vu says, while some voters like to hand-deliver their ballots on Election Day, so they get those little I voted stickers, this year they'll come in the mail.
Now, there are no excuses. You will have the I voted sticker inside your mail ballot package, and between that as well as the return envelope, it's really simple for a voter to get their ballot back to our office.
Last year, the state passed a law allowing voters to register on Election Day, but Vu says that can cause long lines, and voters should see it only as a last resort.
It is so important and vital, if you are not registered to vote, to register now well before the registration deadline, which is February 18th, before we get into this period called the conditional voter registration.
Even if you're getting a mail ballot, you can still come to the Registrar of Voters in Kearney Mesa and vote in person on their new voting machines. If you're registered no party preference and want to vote in the Democratic primary, you should have requested the Democratic ballot. If the wrong ballot arrives, find out how to exchange it at sdvote.com. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
KPBS is bringing your special coverage of the candidates and the issues on this year's ballot. Tonight, we turn our attention to the South Bay. Voters will be asked to decide on a measure that touches on two major issues: housing and education. What Measure M would mean for Chula Vista teachers and homeowners, coming up in about 8 minutes. Tonight's Iowa caucuses are playing out under the shadow of President Trump's impeachment trial. With his acquittal now all but certain, one Democratic senator is proposing an alternative.
Censure would allow this body to unite across party lines and as an equal branch of government to formally denounce the president's actions and hold him accountable. His behavior cannot go unchecked by the Senate, and censure would allow a bipartisan statement condemning his unacceptable behavior in the strongest terms.
That's West Virginia's Joe Manchin. Censure is essentially a public reprimand. Earlier, House managers and the president's lawyers began their closing arguments. Emily Schmidt has more from Washington.
The Senate will convene.
President Trump's impeachment trial resumed Monday with closing arguments to senators who seem largely unswayed by arguments so far.
Even as President Trump has orchestrated this cover-up and obstructed Congress's impeachment inquiry, he remains unapologetic, unrestrained, and intent on continuing his sham to defraud our elections.
This was the first totally partisan presidential impeachment in our nation's history, and it should be our last.
In a Republican-controlled Senate, which opted not to call witnesses in the trial, Wednesday's vote is one in which the president will almost certainly be acquitted. As a result, President Trump says he will likely have a difficult time working with Democrats. Even as his trial was going on, he tweeted on Monday, "I hope Republicans and the American people realize that the totally partisan impeachment hoax is exactly that, a hoax." One test of what comes next will be Tuesday, as Trump delivers his State of the Union address in the same chamber which impeached him. Sitting behind him, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who, according to her spokesman, hasn't spoken with the president since October. In Washington, Emily Schmidt, KPBS News.
KPBS will cover the State of the Union address on all of our platforms. TV coverage led by PBS NewsHour begins tomorrow at 6. You can also listen on KPBS Radio and stream at kpbs.org. Breaking details now on the Wuhan coronavirus. New numbers released moments ago show the death toll in mainland China is now 425, with more than 3,200 new cases, bringing the overall total to close to 20,500. Meantime, here at home, MCAS Miramar will play a role in how the U.S. is dealing with the outbreak. The military base is one of several being used to quarantine American citizens returning from China. People may be held there up to 2 weeks. Only 11 cases are confirmed in the U.S., but the virus is being considered a global health emergency for the way it's spreading in China. The Department of Defense is planning to use Miramar and other bases as quarantine sites through the end of the month. Dozens of people were trapped on a Greyhound bus overnight when a man started shooting, killing one and injuring 6 others. The Greyhound bus was traveling from LA to San Francisco when the shooting happened around 1:30 this morning in the town of Lebec. The driver immediately stopped and managed to get the shooter to exit the bus. The driver then stopped at a gas station at the next exit and called for help.
Out of concern for the passengers, the driver immediately pulled to the right shoulder, and the suspect voluntarily got off the bus, leaving his handgun behind.
There was a lady with 2 kids. I think it was two little girls, and they looked so scared. I felt bad for them.
CHP says they don't have a motive for why the man started shooting. No comment from Greyhound on its security procedures. Officers say the person killed was a woman from Colombia. 2 other victims are hospitalized with serious injuries. New legislation was introduced today to correct a flaw in a state law that allowed the accused Poway synagogue shooter to buy the weapon used in that attack. The bill comes after it was discovered John Ernest bought the AR-15 using an invalid hunting license. Ernest, 19 at the time of the shooting, used that invalid license to claim an exemption to a state law that raised the minimum purchase age to 21. Today's new bill will require a verification process not in place before. Now, if passed, it could reach Governor Newsom's desk by August. Poway water customers might be getting a break. After being told not to drink their water for a week due to contamination, they could be getting some money back. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman explains.
After stormwater contaminated Poway's water supply in late November, officials told residents not to drink their water for a week.
It felt like we were camping all the time.
Now the city is looking to reimburse residents and businesses for their lost water service. The city council is voting tomorrow on whether to give customers a one-time credit that on average would be $28, depending on water usage.
My initial reaction was that's a very small credit, considering 6 days having to boil water every single day. And if you have children, every time you cook, you clean. If you have animals, you're extremely inconvenienced.
I guess that's nice. I think it's a lot of money that the city has to pay, but some people could probably use it.
But $25, it'll just show up once. You won't even notice it. It's a drop in a bucket per se, but it is an effort that shows the city is conscientious and looking to help the people.
While officials were telling residents not to drink the water, nearly 200 stores and restaurants were forced to close for nearly a week.
I felt more sorry for the restaurants because that's their livelihood, and all the restaurants are closed in Poway.
The people that really got hurt were the businesses.
It's likely that restaurants use more water than the average home, meaning their water credit would likely be higher, but some say it won't be enough to cover their losses.
For a business like me, I would imagine it's going to be about $100 range for our water usage. And I think I'd mentioned before, our losses are about $25,000. So it's insignificant in the scheme of things.
Michael Pasolka is the owner of Players Sports Grill in Poway.
All they're really doing is giving people money back for the amount of time that they didn't provide the services that they've agreed to provide. Right. So it really isn't like they're saying, hey, we just want to do this to be nice to you.
Pasolka paid his employees while his restaurant was closed during the water crisis.
The community's been great. They've come in and continually ask about whether we're recovering from it.
He plans to file a claim asking for lost income with the city soon. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
For the past couple of weeks, KPBS has brought you in-depth coverage of the candidates and issues in this year's primary election. Now we're launching our 2020 KPBS Voter Guide. It's an online resource that will guide you through your ballot. Enter your location and you'll get the races that apply to your area. You'll also get an explanation of all offices and ballot measures. Along the way, you can save your choices to make filling out your ballot that much easier. We hope you'll find it a helpful resource. You can check out the KPBS Voter Guide anytime at our website, kpbs.org. We continue our primary coverage tonight with a focus on the South Bay. The Chula Vista Elementary School District wants to raise property taxes in a way that would subsidize housing for teachers. KPBS education reporter Joe Hong explains how Measure M would work.
Across California, school boards and superintendents are lamenting a lack of funding from the state. Declining enrollment, rising pension costs, and more students receiving special education services have tightened budgets statewide. And as housing costs continue to rise in California, one school district could be the first in San Diego County to house its employees. Chula Vista Elementary School District is asking voters to raise local property taxes to build a 100-unit affordable housing complex and subsidize rent for teachers and staff. Oscar Esquivel oversees the district's finances. He said a school bond could help the district recruit and keep employees.
Well, it's a result of this survey, but also a result of the school district's need to incentivize coming to Chula Vista Elementary School District for those positions that we have a difficult time hiring, for example, special education, English language learners.
With Measure M on the March ballot, the district is proposing a $300 million bond. Most of it would go to school repairs and modernization, but $65 million would go to affordable housing units for employees. Esquivel says investing in these facilities is an investment in students.
I've been here for about almost 20 years now, and we were one of the first school districts who have completely air-conditioned all our schools' classrooms. So it's a priority to make sure students are comfortable in a learning environment.
Chula Vista Elementary School District employs more than 2,500 teachers and staff. Teacher salaries range from $51,000 to $103,000. The average sale price of a home in Chula Vista is about $708,000. To afford that, you would need to make a household income of about $108,000. Renting a 3 or 4 bedroom apartment, however, costs about $2,500 a month. To afford that, you would need a household income of about $86,000 a year. Susan Scala is the president of the teachers union at Chula Vista Elementary School District. She said the union supports the bond overall, but she has concerns about district employees living in the same building, which could cause tension at work.
I just see issues with it. You know, I mean, here we are, we're good friends, and then all of a sudden maybe I'm up late at night playing my music too loud, and then, you know, that goes to work with me, or, you know, it's another issue with another employee at a different site, and I just see potential for complications.
The bond measure would raise property taxes by up to $30 for every $100,000 of property value. The San Diego County Taxpayers Association, which reviews school bonds throughout the county, did not endorse the measure. Kelly Batten is the director of policy at the association. She said the teacher housing component was the only thing holding the association back from endorsement. She said the district didn't provide enough details on how the money would be spent and how the housing complex would be maintained.
When we look at bonds, if a district isn't specific on how they're going to use it, we tend to not support those because we want the voters to be aware and, you know, be educated on exactly how those funds are going to be spent.
Despite her concerns about the housing units, Scala applauded the district for addressing the issue head on.
Trying to find a solution by offering subsidized housing for employees, I think it's a noble idea. I mean, at least they're addressing the fact that, hey, we can't solve the pay increase or the pay issue with just what we've got. So this is one way that, you know, maybe we can lighten the load a little bit.
Measure M needs 55% of the votes to pass. Chula Vista voters decide on March 3rd. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
Another place to find all of our election coverage is on our KPBS podcasts. Later this week, we'll look at the candidates for Congress in the 51st, which is the border district held by Juan Vargas. A major health scare for one of the most influential voices in conservative politics. Radio host Rush Limbaugh says he has advanced lung cancer.
I had to inform my staff earlier today. I can't escape, even though people are telling me it's not the way to look at it. I can't help but feel that I'm letting everybody down with this. But the upshot is that I have been diagnosed with advanced lung cancer.
He says he will take some time off to meet with doctors and figure out a plan for treatment. Limbaugh says he had been experiencing shortness of breath recently. He plans to continue doing his radio show as much as his health allows. Help may be on the way for the millions of parents raising a child who has food allergies. Kathy Young tells us about a new drug that treats one of the most common allergies, peanuts.
18-year-old Nina Nichols' first encounter with peanuts was when she was 2 years old. A few bites landed her in the emergency room.
My friend innocently gave me a peanut butter cracker at the pool, and I ended up reacting. Her eyes were swollen shut, she was vomiting, and she was starting to wheeze when she was breathing.
But today, Nichols is able to eat a small amount of peanut thanks to an oral immunotherapy drug called Poway. It is the first drug to reduce allergic reactions to peanuts approved by the Food and Drug Administration. It does come with special precautions patients must meet. Patients mix the specially prepared peanut powder into food daily and gradually increase the amount over months.
It's not a cure for peanut allergy. This is something that even in patients who undergo treatment with this peanut product, they will need to continue avoiding peanut.
Dr. Hemant Sharma is Nichols' doctor and part of the study at Children's National Hospital. He says Poway isn't for everyone. It can cause side effects ranging from mild to a severe allergic reaction.
The gastrointestinal side effects were the most significant ones, and those included symptoms such as chronic nausea, sometimes progressing to vomiting, and that is something that must be considered up front and discussed with patients.
Oh, your back looks really good too. About 1 in 13 children have food allergies in the United States. Peanut allergy is the most common and is considered one of the most dangerous. Other therapies being explored include drops under the tongue and a daily peanut patch that is absorbed through the skin.
Stepping away from oral immunotherapy, there's a lot
of exciting stuff that's in the pipeline.
Experts say peanuts are just the first foods to be tackled. This also opens the doors for other allergens.
We've looked at milk, we've looked at egg, we've looked at various tree nuts and starting to look at seeds, a little bit with other foods like fish.
So these are my EpiPens.
Nichols still needs to carry her EpiPens everywhere, but says Palforzia has changed her life.
Basically almost like a security blanket over me.
Giving Nichols and her family peace of mind. Kathy Young, Associated Press.
So the wind will continue to be an issue tonight, and so will the cold. Temperatures will dip to near freezing in some areas overnight. Lauren Rainson has our forecast.
Good evening. That powerful winter storm system continues to race its way east away from us. On the backside of that, the pressure gradient's been tightening up. You'll notice it's been very gusty out there. Finding the strongest wind gusts in the higher elevations. However, at this time into Wednesday morning, those wind alerts are remaining just north of the metro area. And that's not to say it still isn't very breezy for us, and any high-profile vehicles are going to have a very difficult time on the roads, especially through the rest of the overnight. Other than that, not too much going on weather-wise. We'll walk you through the futurecast going forward tonight. Just a few passing clouds that'll set us up after midnight for hardly a cloud in the sky. There will be some coastal patchy fog areas. Other than that, returning to more sunshine Tuesday. Into the metro after midnight, mostly clear with a low of 42. Oceanside, you're going to bottom out near 34. 42 closer to the metro, and Chula Vista with the low of 40. Breezy conditions will be alive and well through Tuesday, with that sundowner wind event alive and well across Southern California. Soaking up that sunshine with widespread high temperatures in the middle 50s to the lower 60s, right about where we should be at for this time of year. Here's the pat up as we're persisting through the rest of the week with more wet, unsettled weather across the southeastern half of the country. Back into the northwest where the hits just keep on coming, and then that mild air starting to spill over into the northeast. Along the coast with a lot of sunshine, high temperatures in the lower 60s through Thursday. We'll gain a few degrees toward the end of the weekend into the weekend. Further inland, pressing on with plenty of sunshine, temperatures in the lower to the middle 60s will rise Friday to Saturday with highs back in the lower 70s. Into the mountains, a chilly 36 on Tuesday. We'll gain our temperatures back by Thursday, Friday. Highs will return to the lower to the middle 50s. Into the desert, a cool 60, lot of sunshine. We'll bounce to 69 by Thursday, Friday to Saturday with continued sunshine and rising temperatures. Much warmer time in store for the weekend with a high of 77 early weekend. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Lauren Rainson. Back to you.
A new major report finds California is in line for a major economic bump if the state meets its goal to have 5 million electric vehicles on the road by 2030. The nonpartisan think tank Next 10 asked UC Berkeley economist David Roland Holst to examine the issue, and he found that switching to electric cars and trucks could free up billions of dollars.
Half of gross state product is coming from household spending on very job-intensive in-state goods and services. And if you can divert money that's being spent on carbon fuels to that kind of spending, the net increase in employment would be substantial.
Holst says the economic benefits will continue to multiply as more people exchange their fossil fuel-powered vehicles for electric cars and trucks. And he says California's disadvantaged communities stand to gain the most because they would have extra money and cleaner air. KPBS has reported on the issue of garbage becoming a major problem in our oceans. Much of it comes from everyday items we toss in the trash. Now some of the world's largest brands are trying to reduce the impact. Steve Nannis has the story.
Fixing the plastic problem. About 91% of plastic waste ever created has never been recycled. And now the same companies making the kind of plastic containers that end up in the trash are taking action. Nestle, Procter & Gamble, PepsiCo, Unilever, and Clorox all trying to get consumers to switch from single-use to reusable packaging. And they've trusted this man to help them do that.
We're going into a Procter & Gamble and saying, reinvent the packaging of these world-famous products completely. build production lines to fill this reinvented package. Oh, and by the way, I have no proof if anyone's going to buy it at all. But they said yes because they know that there's a garbage crisis and they really don't want to contribute to it.
Tom Saki is the driving force behind Loop, an innovative service he describes as a 21st century milkman. The service sells brand name goods like detergent, shampoo, razors, and ice cream, all in reusable packages. Here's how it works. You pay a refundable deposit for each package. You use the products, then send the containers back to be cleaned and refilled.
We've invested so much time, energy, people resources, and dollars because as we think forward to the future, we know consumers will demand more recyclable products.
So far, the company claims Loop is used by more than 10,000 people. Next year, Loop products will be available in major retailers like Walgreens and Kroger.
What's neat is you could buy it at one retailer and return it to another. So it really creates this nice network effect. We're adding a brand every day.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Steve Nannis.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, all eyes on Iowa, as caucus goers are the first to weigh in on the Democratic race for president. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And just in case you didn't know, the Kansas City Chiefs are Super Bowl champions, but it was a Mira Mesa High grad who played a huge role in their victory over the 49ers.
2nd and 6, Williams makes a cut and will roll into the end zone for the touchdown. No flags.
Running back Damian Williams finished the game with 104 yards rushing. He did it all, catching 4 passes too, one of those for a crucial touchdown. Williams then put the game on ice, breaking a long run for his second score of the night. Although Patrick Mahomes won the MVP, many thought Williams was just as deserving.
This wasn't your kind of game.
And another big honor for another local sports hero, NBA star Kawhi Leonard, now with the LA Clippers, had his San Diego State Aztec jersey retired at halftime of Saturday night's game. Leonard thanked the university, his coaches, and the fans, and who then went on to watch the Aztecs win, raising their record to 23-0. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org.